Welcome back to the 24th floor. What a time to be an Ole Miss fan.
Yep.
10-1, ranked 6th in the country, unbeaten at home, and pushing for a playoff spot.
I was a little disappointed when I saw the college football rankings, though, that they were 6th in the college football playoff rankings.
You know how
Just
they
a little
be.
bit. But success does bring drama, as we all know. What the famous poet once said, "Mo money, mo problems." And this week, the spotlight is on Lane Kiffin's future. His name is popping up with every coaching search out there, and it sounds like he may have to make a call before the Egg Bowl.
So let's talk all things Ole Miss. And you can't do that without this guy. He is the host of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, which you can catch right here on the 24 Plus app, YouTube, and wherever you listen. Once again, welcome to the program, Mr. Stephen Willis. You know I got to do it to you, Ruben. I got to give the clap.
All right, let's go, guys.
You're not snapping a football. I don't know what
That's
you're doing
what
with
it
that
is,
one
you know
clap.
what I'm saying? That's the clap.
I'm not
Trinidad, Jackson Dart, Austin Simmons, the clap. Snap it.
Yeah, it's just telling me when to go.
Stephen, there's so much stuff we could talk about, but don't we have to talk about the obvious?
Yes.
Don't we have to talk about the obvious? Everybody and their grandma and their grandma's auntie wants to know what's going on with Lane Kiffin.
I honestly, I think he's gone.
That's what
Really.
I said.
No!
Thank you,
Yeah.
Stephen.
No,
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No.
Yeah.
I told him this yesterday.
No.
And tell me why you think he's gone. Is it because he hasn't came out and said he's definitely staying?
No, it's because it feels like he's burning every bridge down.
Oh,
And
Elaborate on that for us.
Yeah. The fan base right now, if you wanted to give a course on how to remove the Q rating on a person to go from 100% down to about 15%, Lane Kiffin is doing that right now. Intentionally, in my opinion.
You think he's trying to make the breakup easier?
I think so. Listen, if Ole Miss beats Mississippi State next Friday, the whole narrative, if Lane Kiffin takes another job, is essentially that he quit on a playoff team. That will be the narrative everywhere. There's already columns that people are writing right now about that.
So
If you lose to Mississippi State and miss the playoffs, though, that story goes away.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious then. Well, two things on that. He came out and denied that he was issued a formal ultimatum.
Everybody knows there's a timeline. Let's just be real.
So, because why would you make somebody decide in the middle of the season before the game? I get it. I see it on social media like, let's go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off. But why should somebody be given to the Egg Bowl? Shouldn't he make that decision at least after the conference championship, before the playoffs?
Not if you're going to do a coaching search, right, Stephen? If you're going to do
that's the first part of my question.
high coaching search, you got to get in early.
Yeah, Ole Miss has the guys on Keith Carter's list that he keeps in that top drawer of the desk in case of emergency break glass type thing. That needs to get started pretty quickly. And let's be honest about this. If you walk into Lane Kiffin, it's like, hey, if you want to go, go. That's fine, okay? But we have been good to you for 6 years and said yes to absolutely everything you wanted. At least give us that thing that we can make this as good of a situation as humanly possible. But listen, in my head, this is my opinion. I think Lane thought that he was going to be able to coach the playoff game. And 3 days before the playoff game, he was going to announce that he was signing with Florida or LSU or whoever it was, and that was going to become a 4-hour commercial for that school. And that's the reason the rumors of the ultimatum came out, because Ole Miss was not going to let him coach a playoff game if that happened. When that happened and his plan got reversed, all of a sudden it was like, oh my goodness, am I going to leave before a playoff team? I either need to force their hand to not let me coach, or I need to make sure that Ole Miss is not in the playoffs. And it's weird. It's absolutely bizarre that as a fan, we are in this place right now.
So okay, so it's a lot of things I got to digest on that.
Have you come to terms with the fact he's probably leaving?
No, he's not. Okay, all right.
Let me give Stephen your point here in a minute, but Stephen, I'm going to tell you why he's convinced he's not leaving. Rich is convinced he's not leaving because he watched the documentary, and in the documentary, he was convinced that Lane Kiffin made it sound like he was never going to leave till his kids graduated. Documentaries are all formed and shaped to send a narrative, to tell a story.
After
You're
the
buying the story.
USC thing, you think that he wants to go through that again? After the Tennessee to USC thing?
Now tell us your other point. Like you had those.
Okay, so we want to talk about, hurrying up and ripping the Band-Aid off. So it's a lot of things. First off, if Lane leaves before the playoff game,
which he'll have to,
I think that's kind of punting on the season because it's like they're not going to win in the playoffs. Like, I have all the respect in the world for Pete Golden and that staff, but they're not going to win a national championship if Lane is not coaching. That's number one. Number two, we're talking about rushing. LSU, Florida, Penn State, UCLA, all these teams have had all this time to get a coach.
They're waiting.
And they're willing to wait until the season is over. So why they can't wait for what?
You're talking about two different situations, though. Steven, jump in with me on this when you get ready. But basically, if you're the team without, you're willing to wait for the team till the guy you want is able to leave. You're not going to just take anybody.
And Lane knows that.
But if you're the team with the Golden Goose, you have to decide how this is going to impact your team going forward. So you've got Lane Kiffin. Do you want him to coach a college football playoff game for your team if he's already said he's going to Florida? Absolutely not.
But if he was going to go to Florida, he can just keep that tight, which he's not.
It
would get out.
Yeah,
it would absolutely get out. Whether he's going to LSU or Florida, it would be everywhere. Just like the week of the Florida game, it was everywhere then. Yeah. There was 2:00 on Sunday. There's going to be a huge meeting, which, by the way, in hindsight, that was probably the plane flight that Lane Kiffin's family flew to Gainesville. But, yeah, it's ridiculous. It feels like this is intentional. It feels like that this is going to happen. This is almost like you're watching a breakup kind of in real time.
Yeah. Jeez, let me ask you this, Stephen. Does this hurt Ole Miss in the long run? Because they've got, what a successful season. What a great run, right? And you're so close to kind of turning that corner and being able to call yourself like a perennial contender. But then if you lose him and you don't bounce right back, how far does that set Ole Miss back?
I don't know. That's the $90 million question. It is one of those situations that you would like to think you would bounce back pretty quick. And I've heard rumors of names of coaches and all of that, but I mean, you have to see what happens. But the job one that Ole Miss needs to do, and regardless, no matter what happens, the game against Mississippi State is still the biggest game in the history of the University of Mississippi. Because if you win that game, you play the biggest game in the history of the state of Mississippi.
At home.
That's still on the, that still hasn't changed at all. And all of this noise is going on the side. And you look at it and it's like, how can we not wreck this moment, this thing that we've been building toward for 60 years over some childish games about what's going on and about what you want? And that is the $90 million question. Like I said, I think he's gone. I think he's acting like he's gone.
Yes.
I think there's almost a 0% chance that he coaches his team in 2026.
Thank you, Stephen. But let me go ahead. Finish that thought.
Go ahead.
No, you finish that thought, Stephen.
Still, the important thing is winning this Egg Bowl against Mississippi State and getting that coronation that you've earned, that these players have earned.
Yes. So to your point, Stephen, yes, that's 100% right. The bigger picture should be the team, the program, and what you've been building for the last 6 years and what you're trying to put together should be the bigger picture. The problem is, in this day and age, you can't keep it quiet. So it becomes such a distraction that it's hard to even talk about the Egg Bowl because you're having to talk about the decisions that have to be made by the Egg Bowl or directly after the Egg Bowl at this point in time. I just don't see any way. I've been covering sports a long time. I've been in this arena a long time. I've been around coaches who do not want to leave and been around coaches who do want to leave. There are two very distinct ways you handle that. Coaches who want to stay are adamant. I am staying. Don't even ask me. I'm not leaving. Coaches who are not sure they want to stay, leave the door open. And once that door is open, then it becomes all of this that we're dealing with right now. Would you say has that been your experience, Stephen, over the years?
Yeah, the one coach that you were sure was going to stay that was gone like 48 hours was Tommy Tuberville after his "the only way I'm leaving Oxford's in a pine box" statement, and he left like 48 hours later. So
that's what I'm saying. Coaches lie.
This fan base, a little bit touchy when it comes to this issue. And we'll see. I just know what people have said to me. I've had phone calls back and forth. I've sent text messages to important people. And it's not a great place to be right now.
And that sucks with that record and that season. It sucks to say that. Would you agree? You're on the Ole Miss wagon.
I am. Like, I've been at every home game except for South Carolina and Citadel. And it's just like, my biggest thing before I kind of go back into the comparisons, like, what makes the LSU and Florida job better than the Ole Miss in this current SEC NIL landscape? Well, LSU, yes, bigger name, absolutely. LSU has better success rate recently, but it's highly politicized. You got the governor involved in what they do. In Florida, that rope for success is very short. You see, Florida gets rid of you after like 2 seasons. You know what I'm saying? So what makes those jobs better than Ole Miss?
The potential.
Ole Miss is better than those teams right now. Ole Miss, when improved, they were better than both of those teams.
Because of Lane Kiffin.
Yes.
So you take Lane and put him in those environments for more potential. And Stephen, let me ask you this, because I was talking to a coaching friend of mine, and he made the comment to me that offensive players will always follow an offensive coach wherever, right? So Lane's going to get offensive guys no matter where he goes. But getting those high-end defensive players, those guys are more selective about where they go. They're going to go more based on the program, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the LSUs, wherever. And that was always going to be part of the problem Kiffin's staff is going to have at Ole Miss, is getting enough of those high-level defensive guys
but you got really the portal now, though.
Completely turn the corner. Have you heard? I mean, is that a?
Yeah, well, a little bit, but Pete Golding said the defense. Listen, they had to budget a little bit on the portal this year because they spent so much money a year ago on the portal. They had like the second best roster in all of college football a year ago. Didn't make the playoffs, by the way, with it. But when you look at this year, they tried to moneyball it a little bit. And next year was supposed to be similar to that 24 team, to where you just pick some certain things. You have your quarterback. You have all of these questions. I don't know, especially with Pete Golding at the defensive coordinator position. Again, this is just a horrible situation for fans to be in, and they feel like they've been, ever since the clock hit 0 in the Florida game, they feel like they've been dragged through the mud. And it's not a good place to be for us fans, essentially. It's you try to react to whatever was going on, and that Florida game was a huge, monumental, unbelievable victory. That was the game that Ole Miss usually loses. They've spent 60 years losing that game.
What a game that was.
And this Mississippi State game, you win that, it turns into a coronation. 11-1, the playoffs, the biggest college football game in the history of the state of Mississippi at Vaught Hemingway Stadium at home against Miami or Notre Dame or whoever. And it just feels like this is getting taken away from us, and it has nothing to do with us.
Yep. I think it's a fair statement.
So this is why this is so interesting, because in the NFL, we see this all the time. We've literally had Super Bowls where the coordinators already have their job.
Yes.
Obviously, I know as a Falcons fan, Kyle Shanahan already had the 49ers job, and he still coached in the Super Bowl. So why is it such a big thing that you have, like, if you're going to leave, then you got to get out of there? Not that I think he is going to leave. And then same thing, like I said, like, coaches lie. Like we look at Roy Williams. Remember when he said that he wasn't leaving Kansas, went to UNC? Just recently in college baseball, you had that, what was it, the Texas A&M coach had said he was, or the Texas coach said he wasn't going to leave, and then he ended up going to A&M or something like that.
Yeah, but that's those are the rarities, not the commons, right? Yeah. The commons are, you get a really good idea of what a coach is thinking and looking and doing. The fact that family members are traveling to Baton Rouge and traveling to Gainesville, had those things not been happening, some of this wouldn't be as on fire as it is right now. But all that stuff just fuels the fire. And then, to that point, now, as to your point to the NFL and the difference in the coaching, I think the portal plays a big game in that, and the recruiting plays a big game in that.
You don't want to give him time to recruit your roster.
Yeah, you got to get him out of there. You got to solidify your guys. You got to get your new guy. You got to start that process. It's just different. The NFL is contracts that aren't broken, and the college football is a year-to-year deal now.
Well, hold on. Well, let me kind of counter that point. What about with Harbaugh? When Harbaugh left Michigan, and Harbaugh did it twice. Harbaugh flirted with the NFL, and where they thought he was going to get the Vikings, because I was covering the Vikings at that time. Everybody thought that Harbaugh was leaving to cover the Vikings. They ended up not panning out. He came back to Michigan and said, I'm not doing this again. Then the very next year, they win the national title, and he takes the Chargers job.
But you're talking about college to NFL, not college to college.
Still, though, it's still
and especially, especially not in your conference.
Yes.
To where you're immediately competing. Ole Miss plays Florida and LSU next year. So either way this goes, if he leaves, Ole Miss plays that team. So you have to prepare for that. You don't think that Lane Kiffin right now is building up a relationship if he's intending to leave with Kewan Lacey?
Of course he is.
Oh, he's going to
Of course he is.
Follow him. Woo.
His best lineman, Kewan Lacey, any impact player that knows his system already that he can just take over and plug in, absolutely. You're right, Stephen. But, so, Stephen, to your point, you're looking at it and you're bringing out some points that I think are blatantly obvious that most people don't want to talk about. But you're right. How important is it for Ole Miss, if he's leaving, to get that handled immediately, quickly, as soon as possible?
I think it's massive. It's just a way that you can do it without having to pay the buyout. Honestly, at this point, you could probably, with everything that's gone on, do with cause.
Yeah.
If we're going to be honest, because you're flying around to different things. There's the rumor of talking to the governor of Louisiana for 2 hours. There's all of that, all of these rumors that's floating around. It's just a horrible look. It just is that you would do this potentially. And a lot of people on my show, I've done, is Lane quitting because he would quit on a playoff team if he was going? And I was like, today I did a show on, is there a way for him to come back? And yes, there was. If he decided and wanted to do it, he'd have some damage repair to do, but he could come back. But it's starting to feel like it's becoming pretty cut and dry and final, if we're going to be honest. And there's just bridges being burned. And he just did essentially a quote with I think it was in his teleconference, to where once again he was just like railing, like going against these. He had a softball question to where he could talk about the Ole Miss fans and give them credit, and he just refused to do it.
And you hate to see that, right?
Yeah.
You just if you want to leave, just say I'm leaving. And you don't have to burn the whole thing down. I've seen plenty of times where coaches have left after building something up. They've gone on to another school, maybe not in conference, so that's a little different. But they've left on the right note. The fans appreciated everything that coach had done, and the coach left on the right note. But because it's going to be in conference, and because he won't just address it directly, it's becoming messier and messier and messier every single day.
If he was to leave, he needs to leave for the NFL.
He's not leaving for the NFL. He's going to one of these schools. You need to embrace it.
Yeah. This week has been a tire fire. This week has been a tire fire.
Let's get to the Egg Bowl, because obviously, like you said,
Do you want to coach it, Stephen? They might be looking for somebody.
I will, and I will not go for it randomly on 4th down.
As you said, Steven, this is the biggest game of the year. It always is because it's a rivalry game. I look at this Egg Bowl a bit different. I think no matter what happens, Ole Miss has done enough that they should, keyword should, get into the playoffs. It's more so like if they win this game, they'll host the playoff game because a lot of things have to happen for them to go and get into the SEC title game. I'm just going to be glass half empty. They're not making the SEC championship. But some people, as you probably think that they still have to win this game. And obviously with the Kiffin noise. So tell us, what do you kind of really feel about this Egg Bowl game?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I was thinking, Kejuan Lacey going against that Mississippi State run defense is a pretty big mismatch. Ole Miss has better front seven, better offensive line. They have the advantage in the trenches, and usually if you look at the SEC, that is a plus, even in a rivalry game. But it'll be interesting to see exactly what the game plan looks like. It'll be interesting to see how practice and how the team is dealing with the noise and everything that is going on, because there is nothing more dangerous in this world than a 5-win Egg Bowl team.
Mm-hmm. He's right.
When you play that, there is nothing more dangerous than that. And if you walk in there and you are less than your best, they will beat you. Ole Miss has won 4 out of the last 5 games down there in Starkville. And, you're going down there for 5 out of 6, but
all right, sounds
this
like we're
year
having some technical
feels
difficulties
weird.
with Stephen. Oh, you still hear him?
Yeah, I can hear him. Keep going, Steven.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's like one of those things. You just want to be careful with Mississippi State in this rivalry game because it could go sideways in a hurry.
Yeah, but do you think that if they lose, they don't make the playoffs? Do you think?
I think if they lose and Lane Kiffin chooses to do something else, that gives the committee the cover to leave Ole Miss out of the playoffs.
Wow. So you think the Lane Kiffin drama factors into their college football?
It's written into there. Coach availability is in the bylaws of the college football playoff.
Wow, man.
Well, I do wonder, though. I mean, because I looked at the college football standings yesterday. Was it yesterday? Monday? Yesterday, whenever they were released?
Yesterday.
Yeah, last night I was watching them. And I was a little bit like, I don't know what shocked is the right word, but I didn't necessarily agree with all of the placings. But I thought to myself, in theory, Ole Miss could lose and still make the college football playoffs in theory.
They should.
But it is just a matter of whether or not you're hosting. But I wasn't overly impressed with the seeding of the college football playoffs from what I saw last night.
Seed?
Yeah, I wasn't impressed with. They're in the SEC and they're a 6th seed. I mean, I saw where OU was, and Miami, and I was like, well, some of these teams haven't had to win as much or do as much as some of these SEC teams.
That's all the more reason why I think no matter what, Ole Miss should be in. But as Steven said, this Lane Kiffin drama could be something.
All right,
Yeah.
Stephen. And before we go, I will correlate this Egg Bowl to a bedlam, and you know this.
Yeah.
There is nothing more dangerous for an OU team than a 4 or 5 win OSU team with nothing to lose.
My freshman year, Tyreek Hill.
Man,
kick return.
OSU. We both went to Oklahoma State. We wouldn't beat nobody all year until Bedlam. When OU was headed to the championship. Then that's when you had to beat them. So that's what I correlate this to is Mississippi State is going to be dangerous just for that reason because they got nothing to lose.
Yeah, and with the Egg Bowl and all that, Ole Miss hopefully will go down there, take care of business, win the game, and we're talking about the biggest college football game in the history of the state of Mississippi, and all of this is something you don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
So.
All right, brother. I think we've kept you long enough.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the Egg Bowl next week when we get closer to that time. But obviously today we had to talk a lot about Mr. Kiffin.
And when he leaves, we'll probably do some type of breaking news special. We're going to want to get you on immediately when that happens. Embrace it. It's happening, brother.
I don't think so.
Yeah, just give me a call. I'm available anytime.
Steven, thank you so much. We appreciate you, as always, for being the man with the knowledge and information. Don't forget, you can always catch Steven on his Locked On podcast and
YouTube.
There you go.
Yeah.
I always try to give Steve, gotta give Rick
ABC
some time
24
in there.
plus. Oh, I see what you
I
were
try
doing
to give
there.
you that rest of that. Yeah.
24 plus app, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcast. Steven, I cannot wait till we talk more about Ole Miss basketball so we can stop talking about football and getting me all worked up. We can start talking about Elias Camarine because I know you heard how Penny Hardaway made the Luka Doncic comparison with him.
He's really good. He's an unbelievable player. Oh, my goodness.
All right, we're going to hang on to that, though, for after we get done with all this stuff. So, Stephen, have a great rest of your day. Brother, we appreciate you more than you'll ever know.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.